Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
And welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz. So glad you could make it once again. Mozz, there is rebellion afoot. There is worry. In the world of superhero movies. Are we exhausted? Have we been besmirched by them too much? Are we tired of these characters? And this was brought home very recently in what has been called the greatest battle of the 21st century. Cocaine Bear versus Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Who would dominate the box office? Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp was coming off of a very respectable box office run, but early rumors and early fears were that Cocaine Bear, the come-from-behind comedy kid, the thing that no one expected, the story based on a random news clip from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, that story would eclipse Quantumania, strangle the Kang Empire in its crib, Mozz. That was the fear. That was the fear that gripped all of Hollywood this last weekend.
Doesn't that by itself speak to the state of Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they were worried about some random indie startup goofy idea on the level of perhaps Sharknado eclipsing them?
Well, I mean, that is arguable, Mozz. And I think that is what a lot of people came to it. And I think a lot of the haters, as they say, we're possibly hoping to elicit the defeat. Now, we can all rest easy. Despite a huge drop, 70%, the largest drop ever for an Ant-Man film, or a Marvel film. Largest drop ever for a Marvel film. Actually, not the worst an Ant-Man film has ever done, interestingly enough. So there's actually some interesting relative positioning you can always do. There's always a spin you can put on it. Despite a 70% drop, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania still was able to beat Cocaine Bear.
Woo! Woo!
Yes.
Woo!
So number one, 2 weeks in a row. Cocaine Bear. It's like Rocky 1, you know? It's like
these are the victories we celebrate for the Marvel Universe these days.
To be fair, it's interesting. You know, and I guess maybe what the argument to be made is maybe Cocaine Bear is an interesting concept.
I think what can be said is Cocaine Bear knew what it was and didn't try to pitch itself as something other than what it was. Meanwhile, Quantumania pitched itself as, you know, the next big Marvel thing, and it didn't live up to the hype, I guess.
Well, I mean,
and even in not living up to the hype, they did better than an indie movie should have done, which is expected, sorry.
Just to be clear, Cocaine Bear is not an indie film. It is produced by Universal Pictures.
Oh, okay.
And it does have top-tier talent.
Cocaine Bear. What the budget was?
Let me just pull this up real quick. Let's see. It was directed by Elizabeth Banks. So, you know.
Elizabeth Banks directed that?
Yeah. Jimmy Warden is our writer. Kerry Russell. Alden Endrich is Eddie. O'Shea Jackson Jr. Ray Liotta was in this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Is Ray Liotta alive?
Okay, so just check it, right? The budget for Cocaine Bear was $30 million, and the budget for Quantumania was $200 million. Just
yeah. Well, yeah, but then again, they didn't have Cocaine Bear go to the quantum realm. It's a lot of CGI. When you're I mean, Star Wars, you can make Star Wars for $30 million. It's not going to look as good.
Some would argue it didn't look as good.
Exactly.
Right. No, but the point is, the reason that sold is because there was heart, there was soul, there was consequences, there was things people cared about. It wasn't just grotesque visuals, not grotesque, beautiful visuals done to a grotesque level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is
gaudy.
That is certainly an argument to be made about Ant-Man. The world wasn't ready for the
a lot of arguments made by people that for this past 3 or 4 phases, they have been like hiring mediocre writers and shunning the writers that cost too much. So maybe there's something to that.
Well, what I will say is, and it's a fair cop. It's a fair cop. Marvel's premise and what got them through to here was usually an interesting mix of down and out actors, up and coming artists, people coming from the indie scene especially. And that's always what they've been doing, is they've usually been getting people from the indie scene, giving them money, pairing them with, good actors, and seeing what they can do. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's always the thing. And I think what you can become the victim of your own success in that, which is that Marvel movies are now a thing. Now, you can get called into a Marvel movie or you're offered a Marvel movie, and now that's a badge of honor. Whereas in the past, it was like, oh, yeah, that Marvel company is going to pay me to make a movie, and let's see what I can do with it.
It reminds me of when Batman is facing Bane in that silo, and they're on that little railing fighting each other. And Bane says to Batman, "Victory has made you weak."
Yeah.
And I think that's what they are. They've been the powerhouse for so long. They feel like, hey, we can get away with anything.
Well, I guess the counter argument is I don't think that they're trying to get away with anything. I think they're doing everything they've done always before. But I think that now, because it has been successful, people are now approaching it, waiting for its failure.
I think what it is they came to expect excellence, and they thought they could sneak by with less than that.
See, that's why I always have a problem with this. I have always enjoyed Marvel films.
Sure.
But
I think we're all living in the afterglow of Infinity War and expecting something to come close to that.
No, so here's the thing. I see Marvel in the same way I see Pixar, which are well-made movies that are intentionally designed to engage my emotional cortex. But when you talk about, is it a good movie? I think that's a much more complex question about what is a good movie. And I think that what makes a movie a good movie is if it has legs, if it can continue to do well at the box office. I feel
like that's a justification someone makes when the fans aren't appeased. Well, the fans be whatever. Was it? And now let's have a different argument.
No. I don't even think it's...
No. Okay, well, let's have a different argument. Was it at least a movie? It was a movie,
No. I mean, and again, this is where, see, I am coming from, and again, this is the thing. I've never not liked a Marvel movie, and I can't remember the last Marvel movie that didn't have heavy criticism of it. I remember First Avenger had huge, heavy criticism of it.
Can you honestly say that it was in line with what they're getting now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's you then.
All right. To me, on every conceivable level.
You're willing to stand on that, then that's fine.
I'm willing to say First Avenger, I love First Avenger. I loved Ant-Man. I mean, I liked Moon Knight. But Moon Knight's a TV series. So it's like, if you put Moon Knight against, say, the Incredible Hulk, I mean, oh yeah, I can see that. That's good. They're both good. I can see they're both in this area, and I'm going to compare them to that. She-Hulk, I'll be honest with you. I'll say She-Hulk probably grabbed some low-hanging fruit, and that's a problem for it. But that's a problem for She-Hulk in general. You know, that's the thing. It's like if you have a relationship with the characters, you know, oh yeah, these are some of the kind of jokes. It's like Deadpool, and you know what kind of jokes Deadpool's going to do. And you know he's going to be intentionally pushing certain things, and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And sometimes it'll work, and sometimes
though.
It was a lot of people's cup of tea, yes. Although, to be fair, we haven't really seen, and this is the other aspect that I actually do want to address, which I think is the cocaine bear in the room, which is how our interaction with cinema in general has changed. And I think this is well captured by Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, which is a film my child really wants to see, which is a film I really want to see. We haven't yet. And we haven't yet because, first off, it's about time. It's about going back to the theater. And it's not like we don't want to go back to the theater, but it's just time and money and everything else in life. And the very real knowledge that we all have, especially if you're a guy like me who has a couple of streaming services, that I don't have to wait that long to see this. You know, I saw Black Panther twice, and I got to see it again. And Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I got to see it again on streaming, and I knew it would be there. I know Ant-Man will be there again. So do I have a need to go see it more than once? When most of the Marvel Universe was being built, you didn't have that as an option. If you wanted to go see it and really analyze it and really be that nerd in the room who kept on going back and back, you had to go back and back. You couldn't just let it sit. Now, it's much easier to let it sit. And yeah, I'm effectively paying.
Might be true, but I also think you can't keep ignoring the fans and tell them they're wrong.
And again, I don't think they are ignoring the fans and telling them they're wrong, because I think that they actually have a lot of fans who are jumping up to defend these things. I mean, that's the thing. Ant-Man has made, well, so let me get current box office numbers. Yeah, so that's just for, I'm trying to see what the cumulative is. Yeah, so Ant-Man has already made $171 million in 2 weeks.
Okay. So they're about to break even. Woo-hoo.
Well, yeah. Hey, Cocaine Bear is only about to break even too. They've only made $27 million. So right now, both these films are kind of in a rough spot. You know, and Jesus Revolution is just chomping at their heels every week with Kelsey Grammer there. Avatar: Way of Water is at $666 million. But you know, the idea is that these things are still going. And again, for what it's worth, Puss in Boots is still in the top 10. It's still at $173 million. Now, it took them 70 days in the theaters to get there, as opposed to the 12 days that Ant-Man has. So, you know, you have to take these things with some bit of a grain of salt, and really ask, what do people want to see? And if they all showed up the first week with a film like Ant-Man, why do they not go back? Is it just because they don't want to spend the money to see it again? Or is it because they know they're already spending the money to see it again and they know it'll be on their streaming service?
My personal sentiment is probably one of their friends went to see it and told them how terrible it was, and the people who were planning to go see it didn't go see it. That's what happened with me. And I'm sure that's an experience shared by a lot of people. You know, they're all excited, and then somebody goes to
already?
See. I'm sorry?
Have you seen Ant-Man already?
I have not, but I haven't yet because I'm like, I'll get to it when I get to it. It's probably pretty bad. Most of the people I talked to said it was pretty bad. So when I get to it, when it comes out on streaming, I might watch it. I don't feel like wasting. Like, I wish I would have walked out on Thor, and I didn't, and I'm still a little trepidatious of like, when somebody tells me, yeah, you don't want to see this, I believe them.
Let me put it to you this way, Mozz. You liked Shazam, right?
Yeah.
Or not Shazam. You like Black Adam.
I did a lot.
You like Black Adam. I think you were actually going to like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And this is the other thing that I think is a part of this, which I think that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had a lot of pressure put on it to appeal to non-Ant-Man fans. And I think what it is that Ant-Man films, they're kind of they are the little guy. They aren't Thor. They aren't Captain America. They aren't whatever, Any one of these other films that have made a lot more, a lot quicker than Ant-Man. Ant-Man always is a slow burn. It has a big opening, it has a drop off, but it gets its legs and it keeps on making that 20, 30 million a week every week. And that's what Ant-Man does. That's what it tends to do. And I think that's what it will continue to do. And much like Puss in Boots, stay in the theaters for a very long time, continually making this decent amount of money and only getting knocked down when in March when Shazam: Fury of the Gods comes out. Yeah, because that's going to be the next big budget film.
Yeah, and then they're going to tell us again, no. You'll see the real Kang now. Now you'll see the real Kang. Right? They told me that once, and we got Kang and Loki, and I thought it was lackluster. And they said, no, you're going to see the real Kang here. And even now I'm seeing articles where they're like, yeah, no. Trust me, when we get to what's the next one? The big Together movie.
Oh, well, the next one is Kang Dynasty.
Kang Dynasty, yeah, then you'll see the real Kang. And
they've
been trying to sell me for so long that this is a Thanos level bad guy. And I mean, like, from what I gather, most other people haven't seen it yet, even who went to see the movie.
So what I will tell you is their Kang is flawless. And when you say this is the real Kang,
or the scary Kang, the Kang that lives up to the fear that we put into you about what Kang was gonna be.
And again, it's I don't want to. Here's what I'll tell you: the Kang we see in this is scary. He's scary, powerful. Like, to me, I never found Thanos scary, but I found Thanos powerful and intimidating.
The threat that he posed was scary. We felt that the consequences were real. We felt that when the characters reacted to it like they were scared, we believed why they were scared. That I don't get with Kang. I feel like, you're just acting like you're scared because you're told to.
No. I think you'll get it. I think you'll get it in this. I do. And I'm just telling you, as someone who has seen the movie twice, Kang is where this film excels. Like, really, to me, the biggest mistake in this film was the way they worked in MODOK's character. That I think MODOK's character was definitely a misstep in the way they played him, but I think they also played him well within the context of the film, but that as a character he was underutilized and underplayed. And I think that is a real problem for it, where they went with something they took something that's ridiculous from the comics, they tried to make it ridiculous in the film, but also scary. And they do both. But at the end, just being ridiculous, unless you're going to tap down the ridiculousness and make it truly monstrous, I think that is where, like, what really hurt to me, MODOK, is having Darren Cross's actual face. MODOK's face is usually kind of hideous. And it's supposed to be hideous. And I think that they should have really made him much more hideous to sell who he was, but they wanted to have him be a little bit lighter of a villain because he is the secondary villain, and he's, he also has stuff that happens in it that's, you want him, I think it would have been better had they made him more hideous. I think the story would have had more impact had they made him more hideous. And I think that keeping, was it Eric Stoll's face just as it was, that's probably the wrong actor I'm thinking of, but,
his last name is Stoll.
Yeah. But keeping his face, as it was, I think that was a mistake, and they should have done more to make it look really make it look like the monster that he had become. But that's a choice they made. I don't think that alone ruins the film. I think that is something in the film that is not a good choice that I would not have made. But overall, as a film, I think it is really solid. I think that the threat of Kang we get and the hints we get to who Kang is and why Kang is frightening are there. I think the biggest problem that some people have with it is that when you're talking about genocide on a multiversal level, it's much harder to comprehend. Because we think about, and you can go back to and look in the pruned timelines, and the idea that when a timeline gets pruned, we don't think about it as, although that entire universe of people died. We generally thought about it as, all those people continued. It's just this one part of reality was folded back in to the sacred timeline. And maybe that is what happened, so that not everyone dies, just the people that needed to be reset got reset. And then they continued on, not from that timeline, because only the interactions that they had, only the parts that were pulled off from the timeline had to be destroyed, and the rest of that timeline stayed alive. So you don't think about that person being dead because they get put back to square one. But then you realize, but no, they are dead because that person did step off the timeline. And they did go to the TVA, and they were sent to Eliath, and Eliath did kill them at the end of time. And you realize that when you do that every day, constantly, for billions of years, suddenly you start to realize, that's a lot of death. That maintaining that sacred timeline, that flat circle, that perfect sacred timeline, which is the motivation of He Who Remains, which is the motivation of Kang, that the amount of death that is caused and the amount of destruction that's necessary is horrifying. And when we go into that idea of the multiversal war and what that really means about death on a cosmic level, Kang does step up to be that Thanos level threat. In fact, far beyond that. And again, just as noble in his own certainty that he's right. In the idea, it's not that I want to kill all these people. It's that if I don't kill all these people, everything will be destroyed. The universe will collapse in itself, and then there will be no life. Because once the variants occur, once the variants start fighting, once the universes start encouraging each other, that leads to just destruction until there is nothing left. And that, I think, is the idea behind Kang. And
what if the universe has a wound and it's trying to heal itself, and the pruning of the timelines is just the picking of the scab, refusing to let it heal?
And that, my friend, is Secret Wars. And that's the thing. It's like that is what they're building towards. And the idea is that arguably, and this is now we're going into comic books here, the Beyonders destroyed the universe because the Beyonders used to be all that was. And then they saw multiplicity, and multiplicity scared them, terrified them, because they were one, but if they are one, then how can there be many? And suddenly, because they had interacted with many, arguably the Beyonders became infected with many. And they realized the only way they could destroy the multiverse is to have the multiverses collide. And they create Owen Reese, the Molecule Man, who is actually the result of the Beyonders looking in, or is why the Beyonders can look in, or any number of fan theories you want to create, because these are all technically fan theories. But the idea is that the Beyonders created a world where these Nexus beings would draw these universes together and cause them to collapse. And they'd collapse and then collapse and then collapse until there could be just one reality, their reality. And that's the goal of the Beyonders. And Kang is arguably fighting against the Beyonders. But since we get to Secret Wars, perhaps Kang loses as well. And maybe that's when you realize that Kang wasn't the big bad.
Maybe he was the good guy all along.
And that is one of the best parts in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Is there is this moment where Scott is dealing with this thing about how he defeated him, but was that the right choice? If I stop this villain, does that actually fix things, or am I just stopping? Am I stopping a war? And and a great example of this from pop cultural history is A City on the Edge of Forever from Star Trek, where Bones goes back in time, saves a woman's life. She becomes a very important political figure, convinces America to stay out of World War II.
Oh,
because war is bad. We can all agree war is bad. And if Europe wants to engage itself in war, that's no reason for America to fall to anger and hatred and war. We have enough problems here in this nation to solve. Yeah. And you know what happens next is Hitler gets the bomb, the world is destroyed. And and more to the point, the world is destroyed much sooner than it otherwise should have been. Because that's the real interesting aspect of it. Because obviously the world had many nuclear wars in the Star Trek universe, just much later. And the idea is that if you have that nuclear war too soon, then suddenly because you stopped one villain, or because you didn't stop that villain, or because you made a choice to save a life, you've now doomed the world. And because you made a choice to stop this one villain, maybe something worse is coming. And that's the real threat of Kang. Not whether or not this Kang or that Kang are the worst Kangs, because arguably they're all awful. All of them can become He Who Remains. All of them are Kang. All of them are the ones who want to eventually have one sacred timeline. Just right now, they're in that petty fighting amongst themselves and building a council of Kangs to get themselves through to sign non-aggression pacts. But we all know those are just the lies they're telling themselves. Because even in it, we see there is clearly a power structure. And, fun fan theory, going to give you a bit of a spoiler, there are 3 Kangs that we see at the very end of the film.
Okay.
One we know is Rama Tut, who is, of course, the first Kang.
Gotcha.
One we know is Immortus, who is arguably the last Kang.
Huh.
The third, no one's quite sure who he's supposed to be, because he looks like Kang, but he's got a robot body, and everyone thinks, well, he must be the Scarlet Centurion, which is another Kang variant, but he's not red, he's not Scarlet. And the actual answer I've given is like, oh, I realize why, because that's Ultron. That's an Ultron who took over Kang's body and now passes himself off as a Kang to the other Kangs.
Oh, no, that's fast.
For the return of Ultron. Yeah, I mean, and that I think is really where it gets to be fun in these things. And why I think some critics don't get it, because some people either want to be spoon-fed everything or have all the answers in one movie, or they don't enjoy the fun of just trying to think about what could happen next.
Interesting.
And to me, what's fun about any movie is what's going to happen next.
That's fair.
And to be fair, that's why, really, Puss in Boots' The Last Wish is more interesting to me as something I'll go see than something like Cocaine Bear. Because I just don't think there's going to be much for me to think about after Cocaine Bear. Now, I could be wrong. I may be judging Cocaine Bears too harshly.
No, but that's the thing. Not everything needs to make you think afterwards. Sometimes things are just an escape, and that's what this is.
Yeah.
Something so silly that it doesn't give you any room to think about your own problems.
And that's fine too. And the world, and that's the glory of cinema, Mozz. There's always room for both.
Indeed.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to toss out there? Anything that's interested you this week in the world of pop culture?
No, not so much. I'm excited to see Cocaine Bear and Quantumania now.
Okay.
So you sold me on that. I'm definitely excited to see it again.
Okay. Yeah, come back. You know, and if you see it, you know, I would love to hear your view of Cocaine Bear versus Quantumania. Which was actually the better waste of your $10?
Right, right. Although, I don't know if it'd be a waste of my $10 because I don't know if you heard, but Movie Pass is back.
Oh, yes. Yes, Movie Pass is back. And you know what? There's the argument that AMC has had a Movie Pass deal that has never left.
Yeah, I've had that until now. Since Movie Pass came back, that's the only reason I got rid of my AMC pass, because I can go see movies at AMC and any other movie theater now, not just AMC theaters.
Well, that's great. And actually, what I found really interesting is that apparently with all the movies I've been watching through AMC, and we just have the basic stubs. we still pay for it. It's not the free stubs, but it's the pay for it stubs. I forget what they call that one. But we basically had like 6,000 points.
Yeah.
So it's like, I was like, oh, wow, all of the popcorn I just bought was free. Okay, cool. And couldn't get my free Ant-Man head, though. So they said, no, we had to charge you for the Ant-Man head. No! That's made of plastic. So, but yes, so when I actually do go to see a movie next, I will probably be using those points. So that's a good use to go watch Cocaine Bear.
Indeed.
All right. All right, Mozz. Guys, hey, have you seen Cocaine Bear? Have you seen Ant-Man? What are your thoughts? Is Ant-Man better than Cocaine Bear? Is Cocaine Bear better than Ant-Man? Are either as good as Puss in Boots, The Last Witch? You can write to us and let us know your thoughts at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. And if you don't want to write, because that's like typing and you don't want to do that, just give us a call and tell us what you think. And if you want, we'll play it on the air at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And of course, go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics. Check out all of our podcasts, including the Salty and Petty podcast with Phil Podcast Perich and Lilith Hellfire, where they tackle all the things they feel salty and petty about. Likewise, buy our merch, give us money, and have a great time. Mozz, if people would like to talk to you about all that stuff and how they like to have a good time, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
Thank you, Mozz. And you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way where our mothers and fathers once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter when I live tweet things, when I feel like it, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have come to the end of another exciting episode of Superconnectivity. I hope we have connected with you. I truly hope you will come back next week to super connect with us again. Good night.